The pledge to the flag.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lorene, if you could have a roll call vote, please.
Linda Avanzado. Here. Mel Boyd Benson. John Biscardin.
Here.
Larry Cerisi.
Here.
William Mudge.
Here.
Kimberly Page.
Here.
Richard Welsh.
Here.
Julia Held.
Here.
Student representative. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorene. Thank you for knowing what I meant, since we weren't taking a roll call vote. Could you use the calendars, please?
March 29th, Policy Subcommittee meeting, 10:30 a.m., Central Administration Building. April 6th, Good Friday, schools and offices closed. April 9th, Town Council's preliminary budget hearing with the school committee for the school budget, 7:30 p.m., Beechwood Senior Center. April 9th, also, CLAC meeting, Central Administration Building. April 13th, Professional Development Day, no school for students. April 16th to April 20th, spring recess. April 16th, Town Council budget work session for school budget discussion. April 24th, school day, 7 p.m., cafeteria. Thank you.
All right, do you need it?
Switch it out with this one as the student representative isn't here.
Expert tips. Troublemaker.
April 9th and April 20th.
Hello, Mel Boyd.
Oh, it's April 13th. Oh, you know what? It should be there.
Yeah, we can swap it with the... Okay. Yeah, we're going to need to fish these back up.
Should be like 10.
All right, so I think things are much better now. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. So now we have presentations, and we have presentations recognitions for the Scholastic Art Award recipients. And then, Dr. Auger, during your superintendent report, you were going to announce some grants we had. Did you want to take those and also at the same time?
I can do those at the same time as the Davisville Elementary presentation.
Okay. All right. So we're going to go right down in front here to read off the Scholastic Art Competition winners.
Yeah.
Good evening, Counselor. Counselor or police officer?
Well, good evening, everyone. It is always a pleasure of ours to be, talking about the good things that our students have done. We have had people come up here for awards for sports, for music, for physics, Olympiads, and all kinds of different achievements that our students have. And one of the very special ones is the Scholastic Art Awards. And I would like to call the people who we have awards for up tonight. I'm wondering if when you come on up, we could also ask you to talk a little bit about the work that you've done, and not looking for anyone to make a speech, but just to give us a little indication about the kind of work that you did to get this particular award. Christy Fiona, please. You here this evening? No? Okay. How about Brittany Parfit? Brittany, you here? Hey, Brittany. Congratulations. You want to tell us quickly about the piece of work that you've done?
Just like about what I did.
Yeah, quick description. It's hard without hard without the visual, I understand that.
Yeah, it was a photograph I took of a grapefruit dropping in the water, and yeah, that's it. Anything else I should say? I don't know.
All right, good enough.
you.
Thank you very much. Congratulations. Emily Roberts, are you here? Emily Roberts? Hi, Emily. Congratulations.
Thank you. I did a photography portfolio this year. I'm a senior at North Kingstown, and my portfolio contained 8 photographs that I did. And I don't think you want me to go into detail about all of them, but yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hannah Blackwood. Hannah, are you here tonight? Hannah is not here this evening. Oh, well, she is. I'm sorry about that. Hi, Hannah. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Hannah.
I did a painting in Miss Strain's class. It was a knife painting, and it was about Occupy Wall Street. And, yeah.
Okay. Next time we'll have to do a collage of images. Jessica Bouchard, please. Hi, Jessica. Congratulations.
I did a self-portrait, and I digitally rendered it in Photoshop.
Okay. Thank you. Sabrina Croto. Hi, Sabrina. I think I used to work with your dad, didn't I? How are you? Good.
I'm just reading it.
Mine was a painting of a girl, and it was the first time I painted with knives, so I was happy with the way it turned out.
Tickets for life.
Thank you. Valerie Fortin, are you here? Valerie?
Come on down.
Congratulations, Valerie.
I painted a reimagined interpretation of Edward Hopper's Nighthawks.
Thank you. Tally Larkin? Is Tally here this evening? No. And Vaughn Nelson Lee. He's not here. Garrett Osgood? Helen Richter? No? Okay. Alex Zuckerman. Alex, you here? Oh, we got all right. Okay, well, that does it for tonight's recipients. Oh, I'm sorry. Come on up here, Brittany. Sorry about that. Okay, who did I give the wrong one to? Oh, sorry about that, Fiona. Yeah, okay, here you go. Come on up.
Thank you.
Did we get this right? There you go. Thank you. Is that right? Is that correct on there? Okay. All right. You got to tell us about your art now.
Okay, well, I'm in Miss Strain's class. I've been enjoying art for my whole life, and I did an interpretation of, I forget who painted it, but it was of birds and stuff. And I'm very proud of myself.
Ms. Strain, would you like to talk a little bit about the achievement of your students? This is Janice Strain, everyone, one of our illustrious art teachers here at North Kingstown High School.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming out tonight. I'm just very proud of all the students here at North Kingstown High School. We did receive the most awards out of all the public schools of Rhode Island. So we really had North Kingstown High School shine this year. We're very proud of all of them. They're thinking outside the box and deep thinking and doing some great stuff and getting attention in the art world. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody.
This was stable.
right, next, Dr. Auger, you have the proposal about Davisville Elementary.
Do we have copies? No?
Copies in our packet, don't we? Or do we? My PowerPoint still isn't. I'm always working on my PowerPoint.
Good evening, everybody, and good evening to all of you in the audience this evening. I apologize, normally when I would do a presentation like this, I would give you a copy of my PowerPoint, and there will be an agreement following with, the agreement that we have struck up so far, the draft of that with the Green School, which we're going to talk about tonight. Now, I'm not asking for the committee to vote tonight. I'm only doing a presentation. So within the 2 weeks from now and to our next meeting, I will provide you with all of that necessary paperwork and go over any details you need me to go over again next time. As you all know, we have been talking for some time now about the use of the Davisville Elementary building ever since it has closed. And so far, we have been using the program for cozy services. And before I get really rolling with this presentation tonight, I do want to take about 2 minutes for one more presentation, and that is to recognize some of the members of our cozy program. Donna Thompson, Barbara Sweeney, and Jackie Trainer. Can you guys come on up for 1 second? I know you got the little baby back there. Maybe Donna could watch the baby, and Barbara, you could come on up. How's that? Barbara and Jackie and Donna and their team have done unbelievable work for our district in the work that they do with Title I services. Those are services to, students who, whether free and reduced lunch or in conditions where, they're having a hard time, poverty issues and that sort of thing. And recently, we have secured major grant funding through the federal government, through their hard work for grant money to continue services for another 5 years. And Barbara, if you could talk a little bit about, what that means and exactly some of the details about that.
Thanks, Dr. Auger. As Dr. Auger indicated, we recently got the very good news that we were awarded a continuation grant, a 5-year continuation grant for the 21st Century Community Learning Center program that we've been running for 5 years already in the district, originally at Davisville L, Quidnesset, Davisville Middle. Now it's obviously just at Quidnesset Elementary and Davisville Middle. It was a very competitive process. I forget if there were 29 or 30 applicants.
41.
41. And I believe only 9. 16. So, I have I have a 4-month-old baby. It's amazing. I am here. But so it was a very competitive process. So we were thrilled that as a district that is not typically thought of for this type of programming, we not only received it, but we beat out so many other communities for it, which is very exciting. We will get $120,000 a year for the next 5 years, and we'll be able to continue this very vital programming that is so important to the students, the staff, and the parents and families of the schools. Just a couple quick things. We have engaged in a very strong partnership with the Recreation Department, which is a great example of sort of combining services in the district. To offer some of their programs to our students. We also try very hard, as often as we can, to employ parents in our program, which again is a great example of parent involvement, being able to pay parents to lend their skills and special talents to the programs. Perhaps Jackie can just mention a word or two about the different types of programs that are offered at the schools.
Thanks, Barbara. Primarily at Davisville Middle School, we've been able to fund staff to stay after school Monday through Thursday throughout most of the academic year to do a homework club. That seems to be the service that students and families most desire there, a time to be able to stay and use the school facilities, have the benefit of working with the teacher, getting extra instruction, going into the computer lab, using the computers, using the printers to do some of their classwork when they may not have those resources at home. We often find kids at 2:30 coming going, what's going on today, where can I stay, I just can't go home today. So we're really pleased to be able to offer them a homework club, a space, a place to be and feel connected. In addition to that, we've been able to run cooking clubs and landscaping clubs. We have Mr. Blazer at the middle school who works with kids for 10 weeks in the fall and 10 weeks in the spring, sprucing up the courtyard at DMS, which has really allowed teachers to go out and use that as an alternative learning space when weather permits. Some of the great things at Quidnesset Elementary School, we've run a fitness club after school all year for all ages. We have art programs, science programs going on, things that are very rich with literacy, so a lot of stuff we can be proud of.
Any questions about the grant?
Does anyone have any questions? Mrs. Benson.
I don't have a question, but I have a compliment for you. I interact with some of your constituents and people in your neighborhood, particularly the trailer parks, and they are very pleased. And one question that a lady asked me was, and a gentleman, could you extend it to high school students, and would you be working with it this summer?
Not through this funding. Unfortunately, we applied for funding for those two schools specifically.
Just, you have to be a student at Davisville. It doesn't extend to high school students?
We do some summer activities like 8th grade ramp up.
Nothing for 9th and 10th grade?
Not through this program.
Uh-huh. Will you be working on gathering information on somehow we can get some job study jobs or something? The reason I ask you that is the gentleman, what is his name, Dr. O.J., who came with the two students from the educational developmental program at the high school?
She's talking about the teacher here at the high school who, Mark Williams.
Mark Williams.
He had some students with him, and I was very impressed, and so should a lot of people be, that these students were getting these opportunities. And I thought maybe that with the grant you have, it might extend a little bit, and which would work into our, I hate this word, kneecap scores, where we go down from 8th grade to 9th grade, you know, through the 9th grade, through the 10th grade, if anything was going to be available for COSI during the summer. And you're doing an excellent job with the parents. And the parents I talk with are the ones that need you. I don't go inquiring. I guess I have a sign on my back that says, if you want some encouragement, see Miss Benson. They volunteer and tell me, and they are quite pleased.
Thank you. That's the best feedback we can get, is knowing that parents and students are happy and getting what they need out of our programs. And we'll always continue to look for other funding to be able to expand.
Do you have a limit on the people you can help?
We did write the grant specifically for certain amounts.
But they have to be 1 through 8?
It is designed to serve grades K through 8, actually. Quidnesset and Davis.
What is your enrollment with 7th and 8th grade? That's a very treacherous age.
I can speak to that. We do recognize that many 6th graders participate in our programs, and enrollment does go down in 7th and 8th grade, more for the enrichment type offerings. I think Homework Club stays pretty consistent, though. I think we have great numbers throughout all 3 of the grades at DMS that come and take advantage of the Homework Club, especially around getting ready for exams. We find that toward the end of a quarter or the beginning of a new quarter, we seem to have high enrollment because parents are getting report cards, or there seems to be a stronger connection trying to get kids prepared for the end of a quarter and trying to get projects in. So that seems to service lots of our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. But I do agree in 7th and 8th grade, our enrollment in the enrichment type offerings tends to be lower.
I will speak with the superintendent and offer my service to speak with some of the kids in our most vulnerable population that should be there, and you know what I'm speaking about. And I will be open to help you to reach those kids, because I know for a fact when some of us can read and none of us know how, nobody can read. So I'll be willing, because you're doing an excellent job.
It's a great offer, thank you.
Mrs. Avanzato.
I just wanted to say congratulations, and I wanted to note, too, Quidnesset always does a great job getting information out there as far as what you offer at the school. As a school committee member, we get a lot of things, and I know they're on the listserv as well, so the communication's really great for all the different things available for parents and students, so thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Welch and then Mr. Busgarden.
Yes, I also want to say congratulations for a job well done. You know, sometimes we expect people just to do their job and there's no gratification from those of us who reap the rewards. It's tremendous assets that you bring to this community to be able to go out and do what you did for us. I mean, $600,000 of federal money coming free to this community to help these youngsters is just tremendous. Can we clone you and maybe get some more? Thank you very much.
I say she has cloned herself. It's just that he's too young. Mr. Busgarden.
Yeah, it's an awesome program. Do you take volunteers? I mean, do you have people that come and volunteer time?
Yes.
Or is it all like, for lack of a better word, full-time employees?
We do take volunteers. We do have paid staff as well as volunteers. On all of our brochures that go home, a real strong concentration, I'd say more on the elementary level. It's right on the brochure asking for families who want to participate in the program and become more involved to give us a call, and we're happy to match their interests with a particular program or a particular service they could possibly offer us. We do work closely with Lynx, and they've provided us with volunteers in the past as well.
Great.
And this year in particular, we've had a couple of high schoolers doing high school projects
Oh, awesome.
in our after-school program. So lots of ways to get involved.
You didn't mention that you have people volunteering who are retired from our university. One of your great persons whose grandson went through that and is quite the community advocate for it. And I can't help but mention this. That grant is perpetrated on the fact that we do have low-income housing and that we are not educating these kids at tax expense, because that is the reason why the grant was possible. Am I correct?
Yes, we
Okay,
do need
thank
to
you.
be
We'll leave
attached
it right
to
there.
a school with a certain percent of
That's
poverty in order
correct.
to apply. Correct.
Mr. Mudge.
Great job. And people ought to understand that most of the money that comes into a community like North Kingstown is by a formula. It's boom, 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 boom. It comes in regardless. You have so many people, so many kids in this category, that tall, wide, and everything else, and it's automatic. See, we can't generally compete with the Providences and the other schools because we are a wealthy community. And that's what makes it such more distinguished. What you have done is to go in there and compete and to bring this program to North Kingstown. So I really applaud you for that and for the people you help.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for 5 more years. So we appreciate it.
I just wanted to say something else. Dr. Roche?
Yes.
Could you please mention, I know it doesn't have anything to do with these 2 young ladies, but also the grant that Quidnesset got for their playground?
Yes, I'm going to have a hard time remembering the details on that. They did receive a $15,000 grant. Their PTO did some work on, I can't remember the organization that gave them the grant. Do you remember?
I don't.
Yeah, I'll come back next time with the details on that. And perhaps we'll have Principal Danette come and talk a little bit about it, because that's worthy of note as well. You're right. We just received word about a week and a half ago or so that at Quidnesset they did receive some grant money, about $15,000, and that was pursued by members of their PTO to help put together a playground. So that's really good news too. Anytime you can be pulling in grant money, for these projects. It's just help all around. You know, we've had so many discussions about budgetary issues and all that. So this is much appreciated. The work that you do with the COSI program has gone a long way to help this community, and again, very much appreciated. And you know, and that starts my presentation tonight about the future of Davisville Elementary School. Right now, as you just heard, you know, some programs already exist within that originated Davisville Elementary School, and our offices for our COSI program are there. And Mr. Welch?
If we could just, I'd like to clap and applaud their efforts, if you don't.
Well, by all means.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. It was worthy of applause.
No problem at all. Anytime you want to clap, just jump right in. Right, we like that. Okay.
Mr. Welch, you failed to mention the letter that we got in detail from the school concerning the volunteers are needed and so forth to help complete the playground.
Right, I did fail to, right, you're correct.
All right, we're going to turn the program over to Dr. Ajay.
I'd just like for us to have mentioned that, because it may be someone in the audience who could do that, because that's a wonderful idea, and working with the parents.
The presentation I'd like to make tonight about, you know, Davisville Elementary School is really looking at a 6-year plan moving forward for the school. As you recall, I was talking to you about this in the fall. We had discussions even then with, you know, I went to Davisville and talked to the neighborhood. They had been very concerned about the future use of the building, the neighborhood there. And so we have, you know, over some time, been looking at a couple of models. In that time, we had a call from the Green School. The Green School is a charter school working presently out of West Greenwich, and you're going to learn a lot more about them tonight. I'm going to have a couple of people who are here representing the Green School talk to you a little bit about who they are. And they called around December, right around the time when I was firming together some plans for the use of the building, and with a simple question: do you have any empty schools right now? And I said, well, yes, we're putting together some plans, so if you have something in mind, let's talk in a hurry. And they did, and one thing led to another. We talked for a few months now, and we've come to a point where I think there's something, you know, that I feel you will appreciate, and you know, I'm going to ask that in 2 weeks that you approve a partnership here where the Green School would become a tenant of Davisville Elementary School. The school department currently owns Davisville Elementary School. It's not owned by the town necessarily. I mean, everything's owned by the town, but we oversee that still. And we currently use it, as we just talked about, for COSI and related programming for that. We should really be thinking in terms of keeping possession of Davisville Elementary School, at least for the time being. We know that enrollment looks to be going down. That isn't always a sure thing. There are, you know, always things that come up in terms of enrollment in different parts of our town that may not be the case. But regardless, it's going down at such a slow rate that for the time being anyway, we're really not looking at an issue of closing a school. And in fact, you know, one thing that comes to mind whenever I talk about this is that, you know, there's recently legislation that is still being considered. I don't think it is going to be something that passes, but it's something that keeps coming up about, you know, going full-day K for all districts in the state. And now, even with that, if that comes to reality, there'd probably be several years before that would have to be implemented. But if that were to happen right now, North Kingstown would need some space to do something like that, and Davisville Elementary would likely come into play again. All of our buildings at the moment are pretty much used to capacity. Can't think of any spaces where we have extra space for other programming than we currently have. So COSI is there. They've been there for 15 years, and they, as you just heard, you know, the level of programming that they do have. So the district's plan is that we would retain Davisville Elementary School for district programming for the COSI, the North Kingstown Connect, the NK Connect preschool program that's in there, and for potential use in the future. We would add programs including the Green School as a tenant and special ed transition services. This is something we already talked about this spring with the budget. In fact, we're already budgeting for it, that are income generating and have cost reduction potential. The income I'll talk about for the Green School coming up, but for special education, we've already gone through that. Mrs. Santa was here last time to talk to you about how what she is looking to do with that space is to bring services that are currently outsourced to the Perspectives Group for transition services. These are kids coming out of the high school, but we still have responsibilities for them for job coaching and that sort of thing until they're 21. And we would be able to do these services here, and just in next year's budget alone, save $100,000 from current outsourcing arrangements that we have. So just that alone is a major reason to start going down this road, and the news gets better from there. And we would continue to use COSI programming in the building. They would stay as a nucleus around which to, expand Davisville Elementary School for school-friendly community use. And I'll talk about a few kinds of ideas around that as we go along, too. I'm not going to spend too much time on this slide because Barbara and Jackie just did a good job of talking about these kinds of programs that COSI is involved with. The expansion, as I just mentioned, we're looking at the COSI offices, NK Connect, the Green School, North Kingstown School Department Special Education Programming, adult education through the COSI program. In connection with the Green School, we could be looking at a community garden using that space, the YMCA Spaces by Design, Healthy Places by Design. I always get that one wrong. They have been talking about how Davisville Elementary is an ideal place for something like a community garden because it is a big field and it happens to be fenced in. So you don't have to worry about the deer stealing all your vegetables. And options, just like with the other elementary schools, for community organizations to use some of the spaces, particularly in the evening at Davisville Elementary. The Green School. The Green School is a charter high school. They are 3 years in existence, and if this plan goes forward as I am proposing, they would occupy about two-thirds of the building space. Their enrollment right now is about 168 for next year, and after that they would be at a maximum of 210 students, and I don't have the number there, but it's roughly 20 to 25 staff. And tonight I have Paul Morse here and Dr. Amy Pratt. Paul is the member of the Green School Board of Directors, and Dr. Pratt is the chairwoman and founder of the school. And once I'm done with my part of the presentation, I'm going to ask them to talk to you for a few minutes. The special ed services, we talked about that. They would probably occupy about 1 or 2 rooms at Davisville Elementary, and that, if you can, I know you all know the building. As you walk in, there's a hallway that kind of is adjacent to. I should have put a map up here. I'm sorry, but there's a common room and there's a hallway adjacent to it. That would be the space where the North Kingstown School Department would occupy, and then the front hallway and the far hallway would be for the Green School.
I was picturing in my mind what you said, because when you walk in, there's the auditorium.
Yes.
And to really understand it, the Green School would be at that end.
Well, the Green School would share the auditorium. Everyone would share the auditorium. And then the Green School would be down, when you take a hard right, when you walk in, all the way down that long hallway.
Okay.
The first hallway right next to you when you come in, that would be North Kingstown School Department, the NK Connect program and the transition services for special education.
So that would mean that the Green School would be able to use the new upper level.
Is there an upper level?
Not at Davisville.
I'm missing something.
Yeah, you got some steps. You go up there to the 5th and 6th grade.
To the gym.
I don't remember upper level.
No upper level.
The 2 far hallways. There are basically 3 big hallways.
Stage.
They would have 2 out of the 3.
Okay.
Why don't we let Phil continue with this presentation? We'll take questions at the end.
So those special ed transition services, we talked about this a lot this spring, this winter and into the spring now. About $100,000 in savings and more, and Rachel made a presentation to you about that last time. The adult education through the COSI program, we currently do, and this would continue, paraprofessional training, adult basic education program, parenting and enrichment kinds of things. ESL and family literacy through an organization called the Educational Exchange, who partners with us to do that, and early learning standards for our educators, and that is done with cooperation from the Department of Education. And those things currently exist at Davisville and would continue to exist. We're looking at the possibility, like I said, of a community garden. The Davisville community residents would be a part of this. YMCA Healthy Places by Design, the Green School could be the group that kind of oversees it and maintains it with everybody. And this would also invite for opportunities for our transition students and our NK Connect students to learn from this particular space. So it's really the type of thing that could really be great for bringing all the right kinds of partnerships to the Davisville neighborhood. And, we obviously, at all of our schools, have opportunities for, community organizations to come in. I did a PTO meeting last week at Quidnesset, and I walked in on the community chorus, and I thought that was the PTO, and there were about 150 people there, and I said, this is the greatest PTO I've ever seen, realizing that it wasn't the PTO they had agreed with me. But, it just goes to show there's a lot of things going on at a lot of our elementary schools, and this could be no exception. There are other community groups that would be more than welcome to, work with us to use available times and spaces for that common room, for instance, for things that they need at night. So just like every other school. This is one thing I want to share with you before I pass the baton off to the Green School. And I'm going to give you a lot of paperwork at some point over the next 2 weeks to go over these details. The Green School revenue in the first year is, we're looking at $110,000 in fees to them to use this space. For FY14, and you can see the numbers up there, we would be looking at about $125,000. For FY15, up to $130,000. 16, $135,000, 17, $142,000, and 18, $150,000. That would make for, once you add the special ed transition services and the savings that we get from that, and you take away the cost of that we're already spending to maintain that building at approximately $110,000. For next year's budget alone, we'd be looking at an increase or savings of $98,817. So it's almost $100,000 next year. That number would go up the following year to $113,000, would go up in FY15 to $118,000, then subsequently $123,000, $130,000, and $138,000. Just today I was at, town council meeting, and they talked about, well, wouldn't it just be better, we're not in the business of renting buildings, and that's not what school departments do, and wouldn't it be better just to sell the building? And as I talked about earlier, there are reasons to hold on to that building. We don't know what's coming down the pike, and we may need it in the future. From what I understand from the Green School, the most that they're interested in right now is 6 years, because they are looking to create a school on the Alton Jones campus at some point, and they may need about 5 or 6 years to accomplish that. So once we get to the end of this, then we'll be in a different place. We'll look at what we have for enrollment in the district. We'll look at things like all-day K. We'll look at a lot of things, and we'll be in a better place to make some decisions. If it turns out that enrollment continues to trend the way it is, and we get to a point where we could possibly close another school, well, that would play into it too, and that might be the point where maybe we don't hold on to Davisville Elementary School anymore and give it over to the town. But for right now, I think we're too close for comfort to say that we could easily just do that. This kind of partnership is a great thing. I'm looking forward to, the kinds of relationships that we can have with the Green School in that neighborhood, and the kinds of things that we could do with our transition services, and Cozy's already there doing a lot of great things. So I think there's a lot of pluses. This is a win-win relationship for all. And I'm going to ask my two guests from the Green School to come up and talk a little bit about who they are and what they envision for the building and for their involvement at it.
Dr. Jay, I have just a couple of questions, please.
We're going to have the guests speak first, and then we'll take questions after that.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Dr. Amy Pratt. I'm a veterinarian and the founder of the Green School. We opened last year, actually in our second year. So we have grades 9 through 11 right now, 126 kids. We're adding a 12th grade next year, and then we'll expand to 210 at our full capacity in our 5th year. where environmental sustainability and civic leadership as our focus, and the idea on inception was to bring kids from all over the state, from different communities together, to work on environmental issues together. So when they graduate, they go out to careers and colleges with a better understanding of the environmental issues of today. We have busing from our busing district, and that's one appeal of the Davisville Elementary School, is it is in our busing district. But we also have a bus that we got with a private grant that we run a line from Providence. So we really do market our outreach to communities all over the state. We serve 17 different school districts this year, and we have had a great turnout for our lottery, which was held on the 1st, and looking forward to growing next year. We are very tight in our current leased facility. We put our charter in specifically with the idea to build a green campus on the W. Alton Jones campus, WRI. We have conceptual approval from the Board of Governors for that lease. We have support from the Rhode Island Foundation to work on this plan for our green campus, but the university is slow, and we know how the finances of the state are going right now, so this is not a speedy process, but we're still working on it. I would love to give you more information. Our head of school was here last week to help, but she had emergency surgery and had her gallbladder removed yesterday, so she's not coming
Wish her our
tonight.
best.
She's doing better already and texting,
wish her our
and we're going to have to
best.
take her computer away.
All right, so I know that some of the school committee members have questions for not only the Green School, for Dr. Pratt, but also for Dr. Auger. So
we also have a board member here who can speak.
Yes, go ahead and have him speak first if
Okay.
there's anything he'd like to say.
Thank you, members of the committee and the community. Well, Dr. Pratt pretty much said it all. Just for your information, the Green School, we've actually been around for 2 years, and we have a 5-year charter. So the lease that we were working on with Dr. Phil was a 3-year lease with options after that to go out to a maximum of 6 years. I guess the biggest issue for us is our goal is to build a building on the Alton Jones campus. We have a lot of support from the university, a lot of support from lots of members in the community, our sponsors, the Audubon Society. But as you know, that takes time. And as it turns out, as we've looked at a couple of different options for moving the school, because we do not have enough space right now, we believe that Davisville Elementary School is just it's a great choice for us. It's within our busing district. It's got that nice little pond behind it, a little outdoor classroom, spot for the community garden. And one of our biggest missions with the students is, in addition to the environment, is to really create civic-minded students doing community service and in being engaged with the community. One of the problems with where we are, in some sense, is that it's so remote. And we feel there's a lot of opportunity to connect with the community. We met last week with some of the residents at Davisville, and we just feel there's a lot that we can do together. And it gives our kids an opportunity to really do something more meaningful and real within a smaller community or a tighter community. So that's something that we're looking forward to do. We're here to answer as many questions as we can. Unfortunately, DR Head can't be here, but I think we can probably answer any questions that you guys have. Thanks.
So, when we, as I had promised to the Davisville community, we gave a presentation to them last week. The feeling that I got from the group, we got a round of applause at the end of the night. So I think people were very happy with what they were seeing. This provides for us kind of an anchor for this building. Some tuition to come into the district, which we desperately need, the ability to hold on to this building for a while we're sorting out things and making decisions about our future, and a really good community neighbor. One of the things I know Mr. Mudge may be concerned about, and we talked about this in the past, is the money that goes to charter schools from our district. We talked about this a lot. And, one of the things I want to point out, that part of this agreement that we will have, and I'll give you that paperwork for next time, in plenty of time before you take a vote, is that we have an assurance that the revenue that we would receive from the Green School would at least be double in what we would end up paying for tuitions from North Kingstown students to go to the Green School. one of the things that I was concerned about when talking was, well, this sounds like a really nice school, and here it's going to be right in the middle of a North Kingstown neighborhood, and wouldn't a lot of kids from North Kingstown wouldn't they want to attend? And we all know, we've talked on this stage often about, tuitions, and that comes right from our budget. So, we need to make this be a revenue maker for us, otherwise it's not really an issue that we're interested in, as good as it is. So we have assurances in there. We also have assurances that as maintenance costs go up for our building, that the Green School would share in that, those costs going up and taking care of those expenses on a 2/3 for them, 1/3 for us basis. So, we've really done our homework here and have tried to assure that, our goals are being met, that we're going to use the building for community-minded things, for school kinds of services, and that we're going to keep in mind our needs for revenue. And so if you have any questions, I'd be happy to take some.
Mrs. Avanzado.
Yeah, I may have some questions that come up. I just have a couple comments to start with. First of all, I think you did a great job with this, Dr. Auger, of covering some of the eventualities in this contract that you're talking about. I think the organization is going to make a great neighbor for that neighborhood. There were a lot of concerns, and I myself had a lot of concerns around the financial part of it when we were talking about bringing in all these different groups that were going to put this, I forget what we were calling it, group together in that building, and it was very speculative to me.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't see speculating with the taxpayer's asset, which is the school building. That worried me that if something goes wrong, what are we going to end up paying for? Groups that don't pay us, it becomes kind of... Right. But with a school in there and a very responsible neighbor, I feel like this is a great way to bring revenue to the district. It also allows us to offer special education services and maybe down the road to other districts, which we've been talking about at this table for maybe it's been talked about in this district 5-6 years as a way of bringing revenue in. And it's a type of consolidation, offering services to neighboring districts. Just a small caveat, I would ask that as other things become available or you decide you'd like to add them to this plan, that if we do approve this plan, that, like, say, the YMCA then wants to come in, that we would approve all the different portions of the plan. Because we have a rental fees set up in our policies just to make sure that we were abiding by those. That was just one thing I wanted
At
to
this
say.
point, the programs that I've just listed really take up every bit of the building. The only kinds of other programs that we would be looking at would be kind of, the kind of nighttime things where people rent space from schools in general.
Okay.
So,
Yep.
That's one of the nice things about this is that, like you said, we'd be looking at trying to attract all kinds of different groups to come in and share pieces of it to make up a whole. This really takes care of all the available space that we currently have. And so it solves a problem in one fell swoop.
One more quick comment. The revenue is guaranteed by contract, which is different than what we were talking about before, as I said, which was speculative. And I think people are looking for ways to bring money in, and for the town council to talk about selling the building. On Patch, maybe 2 months ago, there was an article about 5 white elephants in this town. The town owns at least 5 vacant buildings right now that they're doing nothing with, including Whitford Elementary School. So what are they going to do with yet another vacant building? I mean, it's a problem for the town, for us, for everybody. Yeah. So, and if it is to remain a school, the town really can't run a school because we're running it with our special ed services there and the charter school. That's the province of the school department. So the plan makes a lot of sense to me.
Okay, I'm just going to go down the table, but Mr. Cerisi, I don't want to feel as if...
No, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Welch.
Yes, as I attended the meeting, and I was the only person from the school committee at the session. So I will agree, obviously, with Dr. Auger's feeling about the reception from the community that was there. They had concerns. I believe that they were adequately addressed. We will be in the building under this plan, along with the Green School. Parking was a concern for the neighbors. It's a concern of mine. It's a concern of theirs. because these are high school students. The neighborhood is concerned with high school students driving as well as parking all over the neighborhood. And the thing that I mentioned to the residents at that time is that because we will be there on site with our staff and personnel, things that are going on there will be very apparent to our employees and reporting back to administration. If the neighbors can't get satisfaction by talking directly to our staff and the Green School staff, they certainly have our administration to go to and, of course, this school committee. I think of when you compare this program in its entirety to, as Mrs. Affizano said, the speculative program that was proposed over a year ago, this certainly has more stability to it and income, and it's a good use of the facility, even if it ends up being on a short-term basis, short-term being 3 years. I'd like to see them stay for 5 or 10 years, but nonetheless, 2 questions that I have for you, Dr. Auger. What is our current reimbursement cost, or what is our cost per charter student at this time?
You went over this the other night. We're looking at 95% of a district's per pupil expenditure. Is that?
It's a little bit different for each district, and it averages about $8,000, but the money that the district gets from the state, 5% stays with the district and 95% goes to the charter school. And one thing I want to indicate, because I know that was a concern, is, we have students from 17 different districts. Any student in the state of Rhode Island is eligible to go tuition-free to the Green School, and we had 130... Mm-hmm. 100.
Excuse me.
I think the result is if there are more, let's assume there are more people interested from North Kingstown once we move here, you still have a statistical issue that there's a lottery that names are going to get pulled from. So I guess my point is I don't think you're going to see a huge wave of NK students. But that's the math.
But my question to you, Dr. Auger, is that in our state aid, transportation is not included, if I remember correctly. So it would be without transportation, that then it would be 95% of our student cost?
Okay, I see Ned Draper is trying to escape the stage right now. I'm going to pull him back to help us with that one. Could you repeat the question one more time for Ned, if you don't mind?
Ned, what my question is, what is it costing us for a high school student, charter school, out of our state aid per student?
Off the top of my head, I'm not sure.
Well, am I correct in, isn't our state aid figured without transportation?
I believe so.
So it would be 95% of what it, so
it would be without transportation. If memory serves, in the budget book, it's in the mid-20s, but 26,000. I can look it up.
Okay. The other question I had, is your school year the same as ours?
Oh, yeah.
So there'd be no summer school. It would be strictly...
There's a 1 or 2 week program for credit recovery at the end of the school year, just like there may be in most schools. But it's certainly not the whole school.
Okay, and
that would not be what we want to be open for, is making the whole school come for credit.
But what I'm trying to establish, there isn't a summer program.
No.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Buskard.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Page. I have to say, Dr. Auger, when this first was discussed, maybe a year and a half ago, when we just talked about what, options to what could be done with the school, and it was talked about, renting or leasing the space out, I wasn't a real big fan of it because it was first being discussed as piecemeal, three rooms here, 5 rooms here, and I just envisioned a management nightmare. You'd have to have a property manager or, a real estate expert to handle all the incoming checks and late notices and everything else. But since it's been narrowed down to to the Green School or another form of education in the building, along with some NK programs, I think it's a fantastic idea. And I'm glad that it was as receptive as it was in the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Benson.
Yes, I'd like to say, number one, I am so pleased that you chose North Kingstown for the charter school, because we, as a school committee, some of us are going to have to change our attitudes concerning charter schools. Charter schools are the one school that is backed by the federal government, even above what we get from the state. So that's number one. Number two, I'd like to speak up for the fact you're having a charter school. I think you should be given the first choice for the community garden, since you are a green school and not the YMCA. And I happen to be familiar, Dr. O.J., with what's behind Davisville, and they could even do a little bit of work study, because there's 17 acres behind Fishing Cove where students can go, and nothing makes a boy better, a girl, than to spend the day and learning what nature can produce. So for the YMCA, that is completely out.
I don't think the YMCA would have any problem with the Green School overseeing the community garden. I think they would probably recommend that, in fact.
I would like for them to bring a recommendation from the Wellness Committee, and they work along with you all in the working of the garden. You're putting things together, because the wellness community does a good job about nutrition and so forth. Now, the next question is, they spoke about transportation. It's easier to get to your school than it is to Compass School down at URI. So I don't think that should be much of a problem for the charter school. Number two, you can operate differently. You can tell your students no driving of automobiles where we can't. And I'm sure you're going to work. I'm glad Mr. Welch brought that point in, so you will know, and you will work with the neighbors and the people concerning the automobile. And I think it is wonderful. You cannot, this is my last question, you cannot reserve a certain number for North Kingstown students, can you? That's the good part about it. That's correct. So with the backing of the United States Department of Education, our Department of Education, there is no way but a win-win situation. And I look at it as not as revenue that you're bringing, but as another opportunity to expand the education to some children of this school who will, in this city and in this town, who will not be able to pursue a college education. Because as I used to say in the House of Representatives, the president of Torrey has to have his bathroom clean. But he needs somebody to clean it who can read the progress and how you do it. So congratulations, and I wish you the best.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Benson. Mr. Mudge.
Thank you. One of my questions were already answered. These are high school grade students, and I assume because of the nature of the studies that you're going to get pretty good academic students here. And could you comment about their achievements now?
Yeah, we just had in high school, they do the kneecaps in grade 10 in October. And, no, grade 11 in October. But we had those students for 1 year. We have about a third of our students have an IEP or 504. We have students from 17 different school districts. Our scores on the kneecaps came in recently, and I will not always give you exact numbers, so please forgive me. But we did get 100% proficient or greater in reading in the state. As I know it, that we are the first state to do 100% proficient on anything. Now, our writing was, I think, 57 or 58%. Again, I am the first one to quote you a number that's slightly off, so please forgive me. But I think we are 7% above the state average for high school writing. Our math was not good. It was about 27% proficient, which 30% is what I understand the high school math proficiency rate. We are working on that. We were already recarving what we're going to do for our math curriculum to try to bring it up along the way. We are an expeditionary learning school, which we contract with Expeditionary Learning Schools, which is an offshoot of Outward Bound that helps to start and mentor new schools across the country. There are 165 schools across the country, K through 12, and we are the first and only one in Rhode Island. So we get a lot of support from school designers who come from Maine and Massachusetts to help us with our curriculum and our school community to develop a real positive community atmosphere. So we're trying.
But I just assumed that, because of the nature of the subject and everything else, you're taking some unique students, I think, and being able to focus on, some people want to be a nurse, some people want to do something else type of thing. And I suspect that you have good students there.
Well, we're open to anybody, but,
Well, it's just the fact that you're going to get the choice of the litter, I guess, of people that want to really work in this field,
I have to tell you that we have certainly some students that have been homeschooled and very high achieving, but we have a lot of students who just were not fitting in their regular environment. My own son is 1 year too old for this school, but he needs a small school setting. He's deaf in 1 ear, and I live in Coventry. Coventry High School, he would just shut down and not thrive. So he's not a student at this school. But there's a lot of kids like my son who need something a little different. And it's just really, I think, important for kids that need a different space to have a choice for a different space. That's my personal opinion.
Thank you. Thank you. I have several questions. First of all, regarding charter schools, North Kingstown receives $2,300 about, I think, maybe a little bit more this year, at least in 2010 dollars, $2,300 a student. So for every student that leaves North Kingstown and goes to a charter school, we're losing $2,300. And unfortunately, as we know, it's kind of a sprinkling thing. You take one kid out of every class all the way around here, you still have the same expenditures because you still have the heat, the electricity, the teachers, blah, 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 blah. So that's it's always been a significant problem as far as I'm concerned, because I think it's costing us like $800,000 a year to send kids to charter schools in North Kingstown. So I'm not sure we're not going to run into any difficulty there. But getting back to some of the details that I'd like to see before I vote on anything like this, and it sounds like an attractive program, is the devil's in the details. I'd like to see the contract, specific contract, and what we're referring to, and what the arrangements are. I'm a little concerned because of the 2/3, 1/3 ratio. I heard that North Kingstown would only be using 2 rooms, and I thought I heard that from you, Dr. O'Shea. Was that
No, the North Kingstown Transitional Services for the Special Education would be 2 rooms.
2 rooms, yeah. Okay.
The NK Connect would be a room, and the adult learning programs would be a room. And then we would be looking at, and we're still working out some of the details about, office space and that sort of thing. So our cozy office space would also be still in that building. But we're talking about, how we would divvy up the front offices or use some of the other rooms available to us to create office space. And that's still something we're going back and forth on a little bit. But that should be all resolved by 2 weeks from now.
Well, again, here, we have, that's assuming we're going to have the COSI program to start with over there, the transition program over there, and the numbers all add up. But that only amounts to like 5 rooms. And I don't think 5 rooms, I think there's a lot more than 5 rooms.
Well, when you look at, the wing that is adjacent to the main common room there, that's one of the hallways. Our students would also have access to the common space, and we would also have some control over they used to be like teachers' lounge rooms type of thing off to the side of the cafeteria. That would also be North Kingstown School Department space.
So just when we get the details, we can see that.
It's approximately, but it's approximately 2/3, 1/3 type of thing.
Okay, I'd just like to have maybe a floor plan of that.
Yeah, next time I'll come with a floor plan to show you.
This has nothing to do with you folks here, by the way, okay, these questions. In terms of the whole plan, I was reading the Green, Beretta, and Johnson study. It was in 2002. And that study came back and said we needed to spend $45 million in North Kingstown to upgrade our schools. That was in addition to just spending $33 million to build a high school. I looked at that rather carefully and it ultimately got pared down. It was funny, it got pared down to a $25 million bond, which in fact was defeated by the town of North Kingstown. That bond, in terms of planning, wanted to increase Wickford Middle School by 30,000 square feet. Similarly, he wanted to increase Davis Hill Elementary School by 16,000 square feet of space. And of course, it's closed today. So from a planning standpoint and looking out at the future, I'm very concerned about our needs, especially because this plan that was developed in 2002 was also predicated on full-day K. Now, suppose we'd gone ahead with these bonds, and here today, some 10 years later, 11 years later, we'd have really been in a pickle for buying these facilities. So I'm concerned about the planning aspects of these things. And, of course, the monetary analysis is done because I haven't seen the numbers yet, but I know we have a bubble on it in terms of our overhead for the bond debt services we have on there. So when I have an opportunity to, review all the finances, I want to be assured that if we go forward with something like this, that it's, in fact, on the positive side. With that, I ask, if we're only going to have 3 or 4 rooms in the school, then, we could close the school, if you may, and turn it over to the town and let the town be the lessor, not the school committee. And so the town could be the judge of whether they want to continue to do this and add attractive new community programs in there and so forth and so on. I don't think that the school department's in the business of really doing that. I think the town, as much as anyone, would be responsible to ensure that we have adequate space in the future. And if we do need space in the future, I would suggest we go back and do what we were planning to do in 2002, is build a school in the southern end of town for the kids down there. It'll probably pay for itself just by transportation costs. But, so I am very concerned about the plan. I haven't seen the details of the plan again. I appreciate your input. Need to have more information. And I thank you folks for coming here, and you kind of got a specialty there, and probably pretty good kids, too. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mudge. I did have a question up here that was asked, that wasn't asked. What is your driving policy for your students at the Green School?
Right now, we only have 5 kids that drive, They have to apply for permission to drive. And after the meeting last week, Ms. Duncan and I were talking on the way out about saying, well, we're civic leadership and community responsibility. It's very possible that we could work out a system where our students who want to drive have to do a presentation to the community group and get some approval from the community group for permission to drive. It's not that, this is a school that is trying to decrease our carbon footprint. We are hoping that not everyone is driving a car anyway, and that they are taking the bus. And at this cost of gas, they shouldn't be driving. So,
Additionally, because there's limited parking space, we were going to, and in the lease and the details that you don't see, we have a limit as well. And we have to have our teachers park there. So at the end of the day, there's going to be a very limited number of student parking. And so for somebody to get the privilege to park, we're working on the details of a system in which they really have to earn it, so that it would be kind of the responsible students that had the opportunity. And also, it would be a privilege that if there were any issues, would be revoked. So we really appreciate, and especially, I appreciate it, having had 3 kids, 2 of who went through here. Driving through that neighborhood, there's small streets, there's stop signs, there's turns, and we all know what it's like to have high school kids. And, I was one of them, so, but for the grace of God, here am I. So I think we're really conscious of that, and we're going to work very closely with that community group to make sure that that does not become an issue. And we've also are going to not allow parking on the street, so that they couldn't add to the driving by parking on the street.
All right, I'll do one more question for Mrs. Benson and one more for Mr. Mudge, and then I'll have the wrap-up questions. So,
thank you.
Mrs. Benson.
I just wanted to say, in answer to your question, that's the advantage of a charter school over a public school, because we have humongous parking space here, but if you were having something at 11 o'clock and 15 visitors had to come in, they couldn't find nowhere to park. So the advantage of a charter school, they have the authority to limit it and put requirements on it. And that's one of the things that I like about charter schools.
Thank you.
That's one of the things. So many of the fears that we have with public school, they vanish with a charter school.
Mr. Mudge.
I just wanted to issue on a question on transportation. It's my understanding, as long as you're in the district, if you're in the, I don't think people understand this, by the way. Maybe I don't either, so you can correct me. I believe we have 7 or 8 transportation districts in the state of Rhode Island. Not school districts, okay. And there's a 5, so it's not coincident with the counties. See, a lot of people don't understand that, okay?
It's a crazy system.
Yeah, it is a crazy, well, it's based on politics, basically. And as you know, we have children that go to North Kingstown that send their children, for example, Our Lady of Mercy in East Greenwich. They're going to provide their own transportation because they're out of the district.
Right.
Okay? Mm-hmm. However, children are in Saunderstown, okay, or in, we'll say, the neighborhood you're going into, if they want to go to a charter school, the Compass or Kingston Hill, we have to provide that cost.
That's it.
No, I understand. But we're talking about charter schools in general. However,
I think I believe the Department of Education changed that. We pay the districts for the busing.
It hasn't happened in North Kingstown yet.
We don't have a charter school
we
yet.
Are paying bills.
No, we are sending 65 kids to charter schools at Kingston and Compass. Okay? And
all right.
My understanding that we pay for that transportation.
Things have to be vented.
I'll check that, but thank you anyway.
I think that's how it was, but I'm pretty sure that changed this year. But
it is?
Mr. Welch.
All right.
Mr. Welch.
I think that we will be looking at this for a vote not this time, but in 2 weeks. I will say that, since I'm the only person who hasn't spoken, that I do see a need for this building, for the Davisville Elementary building, in that We do need some place for our COSI program. We're pretty much filled up in our other schools that we're not going to have a place to put that. So Davisville Elementary is where it's been this past year, and that's worked out well. It's also then this sort of thing of, while we have it open for our COSI program, that it works wonderfully for our transition services. So it's the sort of thing, since we're not using the entire building, this is a good fit with flowing into it for the rest of the building. Between our COSI and our transitional services, it's the sort of thing the building pretty much pays for itself. So having the Green School in there is the bonus. We've been told we need to look at new ways for bringing in revenue into the town, and I think this is a great coalition of two different groups that basically have the same mission, to be educating our children. So I thank you for coming here today and for answering the questions that I put forward to you, and we will vote in 2 weeks. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, that was presentations, recognitions. I just have two other things that I wanted to bring up under that. One is from Ruth Ann Baker, letting us know that Sadie Hahn received the national, was in one of the two finishers in the top 90% of the National German exam, which means she is invited to complete for a study abroad program in Germany. So congratulations to her. Also, we had our Thursday night winter sports awards, and of that, 71% of our winter athletes were in the high honors or principals honor roll. 81% of our female athletes were in the principals. So it is, unfortunately, our men who are dragging us down a little bit. But of those, I'll just quickly, the Sportsmanship Award were given to Jamie Wadovic for indoor track, Malcolm Peoples indoor track, Steve Chevalier, thank you, for indoor track, Brandon Simeon for basketball, Lucas Nunez for basketball, Marissa Carville for girls basketball, Corey Thuralt for ice hockey, Olivia Handy for gymnastics, Nicole Pearson for gymnastics, Dan Mather for wrestling, and Dan Mather also got the All-State because he had won over half his matches and had a 3.5 GPA. Andrea Cooper for girls co-op ice hockey, Dan Beisel for swimming, and Jess Rudman for swimming. For the most valuable player, it was Maria Boilerbook, I think I'm pronouncing that wrong, for indoor track, Zachary Emmerich for indoor track, Evan Scott for basketball, Madison Ferranti for basketball, Alexandra Barton for basketball, Stone Cooney for ice hockey, Amy Main for cheerleading, Alyssa Pienza, no, that's not how you pronounce, Pazienza for gymnastics, Greg Curvin for wrestling, Boris Paralatici, I'm massacring his name too, for swimming, and Emily Davids for swimming. And one final thing, the swimming team had the Rhode Island Indoor Sportsmanship Award for the year.
Very good.
I can make one more commendation for your list tonight. You know, I just heard from Tony Silveri, who is our band director at the high school, and she informed me, and I heard this also this weekend as I was at the All-State competitions, or not competition, the All-State concert for chorus. My daughter was in one of the choral ensembles. They mentioned that the jazz ensemble, the All-State Jazz Ensemble, has been invited, and this is the All-State. Now, 4 North Kingstown students are involved in this, and Tony Silvera manages this group. They are invited to appear at the Newport Jazz Festival this summer. Wow. It is a really great distinction. So we're going to be making some more noise about that, and we'd probably like to have them for a little presentation at some point. But just heard that today, and I want people to know about that. That's a really big deal.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That is fantastic.
And four North Kingstown high school students are involved in that jazz ensemble. So.
All right. This for recognitions.
I have some correspondence also.
Correspondence is at the end. This is only for recognitions.
Well, how did correspondence get at the end?
Because we put it at the end. You have recognition.
Well, why don't we follow school department policy?
All right. If you don't have any recognition, I'm going to go on to citizens' comments. So,
Thank you very much
comments. This
for
is
unilaterally changing the agenda
You're welcome. This is a business meeting, so citizens' comments are at the front part, and they're not before we take a vote. So Paul Marshall.
I wanted to make a comment about the students at the Jazz Festival.
Hi, Paul Marshall, 63 Duck Cove Road.
How you doing over there?
Hi there.
Hi, how's it going?
Hi. Got a little obstacle. I rise this evening to speak on behalf of fellow taxpayers in the community. I'm a volunteer in the community. I've lived here 11 years. I have a daughter in the school. We own property, and we volunteer in the community. I received today the annual report put together and distributed by our fine superintendent. And in an ideal world with ideal economic conditions, many of us would probably feel a lot different about the bond issue. Unfortunately, we live in times that are, to use difficult words, drastic. Our economic conditions here couldn't be worse, and selecting a time like now to increase expenditures rather than cut expenses really calls to question the logic of such actions. Many of our fellow citizens are leaving a community. Our tax base is shrinking. Our outlook is grim. Many of our cities and towns are going bankrupt. I really question the validity of the arguments put forward by the administration that cutting our expenses because the task is just too daunting is valid and legitimate. We have a real difficulty with finding ways to cut expenses in our community. This has to change. Floating bond issue after bond issue. After 40 years of involvement in our government, I found that expenses only increase, and as taxes increase to cover these expenses, people just choose to vote with their feet. And that's what's happening in our community, community after community. People are voting with their feet. There are 49 other states to choose from and 200 other countries. To increase our debt on our future generations without their consent or input seems to be drastically unfair. Where's the equity? We may need some things. We would like some things. God, we'd all like a lot of things, I'm sure. But now may really, truly not be the time for a bond issue of this magnitude. I wish times were different, but they're not. We have to live in the reality of today. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Marshall. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak at citizens' comments?
Hi, Wayne McCarthy, Old Baptist Road. I wasn't going to say anything tonight, but I was just listening to this last gentleman, and I thought a couple of words would put a few things in perspective of what I've been thinking of lately. I don't know if you folks caught in the news about 3 weeks ago, there was an article in Evening News that for the first time in the history of the United States, our debt had exceeded our ability in 1 year's time to be able to create the wealth for all the industry and business that takes place. They say that that's a pretty scary time when you reach that point financially as a country, because you're getting very close to that precipice that there's no return to coming back from. Now, our total tax revenue in this next budget looks like it's going to be about $90 million, and we're floating about $56 million right now in bonded debt. So we're two-thirds of the way there now as a town. Once we reach that 90,000, if we ever do, we're in some serious trouble. I've lived here all my life, 65 years. I've seen this town change from a sleepy little New England town where families grew up here, vibrant. This is Wickford I'm talking about. The only people that can afford to live in Wickford now are people with means. You talk to the ministers in the local town, the two churches in Wickford, and they'll tell you that the parishes have changed considerably in the last couple of generations. They don't have a vibrant children and young families there anymore because the people can't afford to live here. So, before we start asking for more money for the taxpayers to pay, I think we should all really seriously think that at some point in time, we're going to say enough is enough, and we've got to live on what we make and not put anything more in the credit card, so to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy.
Good evening, Jim McGuinn, 412 Chimney Rock, also president of North Kingston Taxpayers. To follow up on what was just said, we are in difficult economic times. We're in the fourth year of them. You can see what's going on worldwide. You can see what's going on in the country and with our debt. We've got a couple things going on. One is the Davisville L. On December 12, 2009, there was a presentation with a number of groups, including the NKTO and HISTWIC and whatnot, on what to do with the Beechwood House and also Davisville L and Wickford Elementary. And it was a proposal then, and we put forth, NKTO put forth a financial option to sell Davisville L and use that money for capital improvements to the schools. Davisville L actually has a higher value than Wickford L. That would be revenue, because right now you've got a problem. And Kim Page will, hopefully, agree with me when I say, I've said to her several times, we need a bond. We do need a bond. We need to fix that roof at Davisville. It is at the end of its useful life. But I was amazed. I did not realize what was going on at Quidnesset. Superintendent had a PTO meeting last week, and the irony was he was asking PTO parents to support a roof for another school when there were roof panels missing above his head. There was a 12 by 12 sheet of plastic hanging from the ceiling 25 feet away. And Mr. Welsh said earlier today about the Green School that it'll be very apparent to our employees if there's a problem over there. Well, I'm telling you right now, it's very apparent to your employees that there's a problem at Quidnesset. It's very apparent to the principal, who said the problem's been going on for years. They come, they patch the roof, but they never fix it. It's very apparent to the janitor, who says the leaks happen every time, the same time every year. It's very apparent to the teachers, who say that they have to bore holes in their ceiling so that they can focus it in one spot, so when it rains they can put a bucket underneath it. And when it gets bad, they're sending kids to the office to get their inhalers.
Mr. McGuinn, your 3 minutes is up. Can you wrap up,
I'm
please?
trying to, but, this is not a unimportant issue. How are you going to fix that roof at Quidnesset? It is not fixed. There are mold problems. The parents are concerned. Maybe they're within the tolerance. They're below what's considered safe. But would you have your kids there? Why was that not on the bond? We cannot, when a parent asked, how are we going to fix the roof at Quidnesset, Mr. Welch responded, we're going to have to use bonds to do the repairs on these roofs. We could have used the revenues from Davisville L, but we can't keep on affording bonds. I remind you, the last bond that did pass, the NKTO supported it, the $9 million bond. Guess where the money went? Davisville L has the fewest leaks of any of the schools. Davisville L has new windows. Davisville L has fire suppression, sprinklers, one-story school with doors in every room. Brand new windows. There aren't brand new windows at Quidnesset. We have to start maintaining these schools. And even members of
Your time's up, Mr. McGuinn.
facilities management did not know the condition of Davisville L, Quidnesset.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak for citizens' comments? Hand that back to Lorraine. All right, this does bring us into the superintendent's report. I will say that, it's one of those things of, about the bond. I do support the bond. I do not want to be in the position where in next year that we are giving out students at Davisville Middle School hats like this that they then must wear to make sure that they don't have the rain coming down on them.
That's ridiculous.
So, just to kind of,
Untruthful.
it may be ridiculous, you're right, but it's one of those things of, I think
Give
it's
us the
important
same opportunity.
that people go out on April 3rd and vote. So it's the sort of thing of, I'll sit here for the rest of the meeting to make my point. I think the citizens have made their point loud and clear. I think the bond's important. I hope that people come. I hope they vote on April 3rd. And obviously, I don't want our students wearing this. So obviously, I hope people come and support the bond.
You put somebody's eye out with that.
If I get too close, let me know. Dr. Ajay, it is now
Could I
superintendent's
comment on
report.
your comments, please?
No, I'm going to go to Dr. Ajay. It's 8:40. We
want
have
to,
a long agenda.
Thank you.
I'm going to try to be brief
Madam
about
Chair.
this.
It's Dr. Ajay.
Dr. O'Jay,
I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Ajay.
I have a parliamentary question that I need to...
I'm going on to Dr. Ajay.
Wait a minute, look at me
Just
and
wanna
tell
make
me
some-
that you are denying me asking you a question.
I just want to make some
You may ask
comments
me a question
tonight
at some other time.
regarding,
Point of order.
something.
Let us follow
I tell you
Robert's
what.
rules of
About ready to go
order,
home.
please.
I tell you what.
Dr. Ajay, you have the floor.
Today, obviously, Mr. McGuinn, I respect your comments about Quidnesset. You were at the meeting when I was there. I explained to parents in the room, the issue about that roof. There is a leak. When there is a leak, sometimes we use tarps and things like that to channel the water so that you don't make a big mess. It usually is procedure to remove ceiling panels. We didn't remove roof panels, we removed ceiling panels in order to get air to that area. That's standard operating procedure. It prevents things like mold. Over the last summer, we had a situation where we were doing some construction over there to put some new sinks in certain areas, and we did notice that there was some mold coming from the floor. That was addressed, and we have since done testing and realized that it is addressed satisfactorily. The ratings for these are safe. We had testing done in September. We got the results back in October. We had more testing done because people were obviously concerned. You don't want to hear anything about mold, and I don't want that to happen either. We did more testing in January, and that testing came back with the counts were very low and do not pose a health risk. That is a quote from this report. I have a copy of the report for everybody on this committee, and Mr. McGuinn, if you would like one after this meeting, I'd be happy to give those to you. Okay? So, I just need you to know that I take those issues very seriously. I'd like, for right now, if I could give some time to Mr. Draper to talk a little bit about the asset management process. The question came, well, why isn't Quidnesset also listed on this? And, it is my understanding from, the groups of local people who oversee this work for us and help us to prioritize our building needs, that Quidnesset roof right now, even with its imperfections, and it is not the only school that has leaks, by the way, that even with its imperfections does not rise to nearly the level of the Davisville Middle School roof. And it would behoove us all. I respect the points that people have made about the taxes that they pay. I don't want to pay any more in taxes than I have to either. But I also realize that it is critically important to have well-maintained schools. That helps us in all kinds of ways. It helps for our community. It helps for the safety of our kids, which is a real issue that Mr. McGuinn brought up tonight. And it helps with our property values. It helps us to have the kind of community we want. There comes a time when if you want these goods and services in your community, yes, you do have to pay for them. And those things are called taxes. And so, I hope that this is not, I think the threshold has been there to show that these are things that there's no extras. We were looking at some points to include office space at Wickford Middle School and other projects. That did not rise to the level of need as seen by our own facilities people, school committee, town council, legislature, governor, board of regents, all of which checked to see are these, it wouldn't go through the board of regents if it weren't just critical health and safety issues. So, this has been vetted. This is real. These are real needs that we have. And if we don't do it through this bond and this kind of a reimbursement, we're looking at a more difficult way to do it in the future and more strain on taxes. Because, there's a possibility that we'd then have to do it for 100%. So, I believe it is a good thing to do. And I'm going to ask Mr. Draper to talk about, that prioritization process and why the roof at Quidnesset may not be ready for that on the list for the bond.
Sure. The items that were selected for the bond are immediate health and safety as defined by RIDE. So when the inspections were done over the past year and a half by SMMA, they were whittled down to only include those items which RIDE would certify. That said, in regards to Quidnesset School specifically, I do not know the exact date of the last roof replacement. It's prior to the 5 years I've been here, but I believe it's within the last 10. That would put it along the same lines as the roof here at the high school. And I don't know if some here will recall, we did have a water problem, which actually had a mold issue here in this auditorium. That was something we had to deal with, remediate, and we've moved on from it. So I would caution everybody to understand that, yes, we do have recurring leaks that happen throughout the district, but we deal with them as they come up and try to make it available for use as quickly as possible. In regards to the mold at Quidnesset, exactly what the superintendent said is correct. We remove ceiling tiles as soon as we do have leaks so that the air will get to it, and it won't create a problem where moisture's stuck behind a surface that you can't get to. I think we all know probably from shower curtains, once that moisture gets stuck behind something and it stays there for a while, you get a problem. Whereas if you remove the surfaces so that they're not in contact with each other, you're less likely to get mold growth. So those are some of the things that pertain to Quidnesset. Also, with a roof in age of about 10 years, we're typically seeing 25 to 30-year life on the roof systems that have been installed here. So it's not unrealistic to think that Quidnesset, once those leaks are patched, should be good for many years to come.
May I comment, please?
Yes.
Dr. Ajay, did you have anything else that you wanted to say under superintendent report?
I'm all set for now. Thank you.
I have two questions on superintendent's report, please.
Yes, Mr. Mudge,
First of all,
question.
I would like to get a list. And it just didn't dawn on me until the other day, of all the reports via the state law, via town charter, and our school department policy that the superintendent is required to submit to the school committee.
That's got something to do with the roof?
Oh, I'm just talking, I'm talking about, I think it says superintendent's reports. What I'm suggesting is, and I looked through a couple of policies the other day, and there's a host of reporting systems, whether it's on grades, whether it's on discipline, and things like that, that we should be getting every year. Okay, the state law has financial reports and things like that, education reports that are due in August and so forth and so on. And it would be nice to understand what all reports are coming along and what reports we would be seeing from week to week or expect to see through the course of the year. So I'd like to see a list of all the reports that the superintendent is required to provide. Second.
Required to provide to whom?
The school committee. The school committee.
And what was the other question, Mr. Mudge?
Okay, the other question was, we just addressed the bond issue again, and the comment was made health and safety. And I'm going to pass this in. This is my comments in the paper about the health and safety issue. And no one that I know of has said we don't need to replace or fix the roof at Davisville Middle School. No one. Now, how we do it may be an issue, okay, whether it's out of bond money or tax money, or, the debt service, fund balance is another issue, and I'm sure the council's going to address that. But to say this is a health and safety issue, is really most unfortunate. We had an inspection of that building on January 23rd this year for mold and dust and everything else at Davisville Middle School, and the results were zero. We had an exam several months before that, 3 years in a row. So would somebody please help me understand and cite the health and safety issues that we have? Health and safety.
Thank you, Mr. Mudge.
I'm asking a question. I'd like to make a motion that the health and safety items, okay, that we have, that will be mitigated by this bond could be identified to us, including any violations of ADA rules. Second.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion. Yeah, I want to see them.
In order.
Madam Chair, there's nothing on the agenda that would allow that.
Excuse me. No one asked you your opinion. Whoa.
Mrs. Carroll, could you give us your
opinion? Excuse me. We got 3 lawyers up here. We ought to be able to run this.
Well, Mr. Mudge, there may be 3 lawyers. I didn't know you had a law degree, but this is not on the agenda.
I'm asking for it to be put on the agenda.
But it's not on this agenda.
It won't be a motion that we'll make right now. I believe the superintendent has that already in a flyer that he's been giving out, so he can give you that information without any problem.
Again, point of order.
What is your point of order?
Point of order.
Point of order is, wait a minute, if you're going to let me talk, and I'm going to let you talk.
All right.
One at a time. What is your point of order?
That's right. Point of order is, the attorney ruled him out of order.
She did?
He said for a future meeting.
It just means that the motion is not a motion he can bring right now.
Okay, we're going strictly by the agenda. Am I correct, attorney?
Correct.
Okay, what I wanted to ask you tonight.
The point of order.
All of this is point of order. Okay.
And so far, I've agreed with your point of order. And
did or not, I made the point of order.
Okay.
And I would like to finish. This is a democracy.
What's your point of order?
My point of order, second point of order is, you all made a great decision at the last meeting to do away with a negotiation committee. Am I
that's
correct?
not a point of order. Mr. Mudge, what is your point of order?
Would you be able to let me, so I can get some information from the attorney?
You can ask Mrs. Carroll off to the side. That's not a point of order.
Oh, no, this is a public
Mr. Mudge,
issue.
what is your point of order?
Well, maybe you'll tell me when I get through filing a complaint. Maybe
Mr. Mudge, what is your point of order?
Because I'm not arguing with you no more.
My point of order is that, first of all, we're not following Robert's Rules of Order.
But what rule do you think
Okay?
it is not being followed? That's what you're supposed to tell me, your point of order.
Well, certainly, one is the fact that you juggle the agenda around, okay, and
That's
haven't
not a
followed...
Robert's rules. So what is
It's a
your
school
point of order?
department policy that we should be following, like even school committee...
It is
committee
noted. It is
pol-
going to the policy committee on Friday.
Yeah.
What is your other point of
Okay.
order?
The fact is that, in fact, this was on the agenda. My discussion was on the agenda because it came under superintendent's reports, okay? And he was given a report.
But that's not a motion.
Okay?
All right.
So to have
we're
her
going on
suggest,
now.
time out, to have her suggest that I'm out of order
To make
is
the
improper.
motion that has been ruled out of order.
By whom?
I ruled it out of order.
Why would you rule it out of order?
Because it is not the time to make a motion. It is merely a report. It is not the time to make a motion.
No, by what? Now,
Dr.
what?
O'Shea-
Would you please cite why it's not the time to make a motion?
It is a report.
Can we please get on with the
It's
meeting?
just a report. That's all you do, and a report is report, and we can ask questions. It is
So we
not
can't
the
make
time to
a,
make
so
a
we can't
motion.
make a motion and Robert's
You
Rules
don't make
of
a
Order.
motion during
we can't-
citizens' comments. You don't make a motion during calendars. You don't make motions during
Who
presentations.
said that?
That's Robert's Rules of Order.
We'll check that.
Actually, it's a violation of the open
Question,
meeting law if
please.
it's not on the agenda.
One question, Madam President, so we can go on and complete the meeting.
They've asked enough questions. Can we get on with the agenda?
Excuse
No,
me.
no,
Wait,
Mr.
what is
Wells.
the
This
question?
is just-
And
This
we
is
need to
just as important to me as
ask
it
the
is to you.
question, please.
The question is, about 6 weeks ago, we ruled that we had 2 parliamentarians that gave permission for us to bring back a vote. So what are we following? And you sat next to me.
Following Robert's Rules of Order.
Oh, so
Thank
we've
you.
changed again.
So here we go. We are now on to
Would you put in the
routine
minutes,
items.
please, that
Is
we
there anyone
changed
who would
from
like
Robert's
to
Rule of
exempt
Orders? You made
items
it.
from routine items?
You made it. I didn't.
Anything to be
I
exempted?
didn't.
Yes.
Yes. What is your exemption, Mr. Mudge?
Item E. And item F3 and F1.
Any other items to be exempted? Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
moved.
Oh, Mr. Cerisi, what is your exemption?
I have a motion to improve the entire consent agenda.
Second.
They are beautiful. Beautiful, just beautiful. There's
Question on their motion
government at
when we
its
get
best.
to the point.
Can't do that because I've already exempted them, and that's my prerogative.
Question, Madam
This
Chair,
is-
when we get to that point.
I'm going to ask Mrs. Carroll what we
Marion,
can
you
do
better be
about this
careful.
one.
Your license is at hand.
Majority rules, not 2 people.
Oh, no, the policy rules.
Go ahead, Mrs. Carroll.
Mr. Cerisi, with all due respect, Mr. Mudge has already exempted those items, so...
I'm going to make a motion to approve items E and F1.
Second. That you can do.
Madam Chair.
All right, so there's a motion on the floor to
Okay.
approve E1 and F1.
All of E and F1.
All of E and F1.
Okay, that's up to discussion then, right?
Is there any further discussion?
Why, certainly there is.
Mrs. Avanzato.
Approving the consent agenda in one motion is something that we've been forced to do on several occasions because a couple of members of the committee are dominating the conversation, are dominating the table, and are not keeping, and when they don't wait until they're called on to speak out. And not only are people at this table tired of that, but members of the public are tired of that. And I've been contacted by a lot of people that they don't like it. They want more orderly meetings. You have a valid point to make, just wait until your name is... This is not the way we like to pass a consent agenda, but I've sat here night after every single item was pulled on the consent agenda, and double the time is taken by certain people to discuss the items. If they would be polite and keep themselves to a shorter time, we could have a fair discussion of all the issues in a civil way, like we're supposed to.
Mrs. Benson.
Thank you, Mrs. Abadano. I have been contacted also by the citizens of certain members of the committee who would like to dominate the committee and don't give the others chance. So I think that's something that all of us should work on, all of us. And if we have members who are doing this...
What is your point of order?
There's a motion on the table. We're supposed to be having discussion on the motion on the table.
That's what I'm discussing, Mr. Cerisi. That is my discussion, Mr. Cerisi. And if our attorney will be fair, when you have a discussion
All right, so let's make sure the comments are contained to items E1 or E and F1 about if we're going to approve this or not approve this.
Then we need to know why does he make a point of order?
Because he's asking, the point of order was that the comments should be confined to the motion on the floor. I am ruling in favor of that.
Well, I would like to ask the attorney, what is your legal opinion?
My legal opinion is that you need to make comments on whatever the motion is. Right now, Mr. Cerisi made a motion to approve E1 and F, all of E and F1. So that motion was seconded. Any comments you make are about E and F1.
That's what my comments are directed toward.
Okay, is there any other
Yes,
comments?
point of order, please.
Yeah. What is your point of order?
I just, I'm getting old, so many things slip by me. The council just said, Mr. Cerisi made a motion, okay, to approve everything.
No.
Okay.
No, Mr. Cerisi did not, Mr. Cerisi
Speak
made a
out
motion.
so we can get it right.
And it was withdrawn. He then turned around and made a motion to approve E1, all of E and F1. So all you're talking about right now is E and F1.
Do you have a comment against passing E and F1?
We're not going to pass the other ones.
Right now, that's his motion.
That's his motion.
The other motion is not on the floor.
Okay. Thank you.
I have
The
a
reason-
comment on...
Mr. Mudge has the floor.
Okay. When you
It's just sad. It's sad.
Now I got to get lectured to.
Okay, yeah, you're going to get lectures, right. We're in court because we're supposedly $1,200,000 short in our finances. We say we don't have the money. We say we don't know, what where we're going with our finances. We're still 200. Last week I couldn't find 2 weeks ago I couldn't find out how much we were in debt this year. Now I find it's $200,000. So we've cut the budget deficit from $1.2 million to $200,000. I'm saying, boy, that's pretty good. We wait another 2 weeks, we'll have a surplus.
Madam Chairman,
But
can we
with
please call the
respect to that,
The motion, Mr.
we have in front of us a item, page
I do have a motion to call the question.
23, excuse me, 23, I haven't finished, point of order, I haven't finished, page 23 in this budget, that happens to talk about the report, and happens to talk about the budget, and it happens to talk about surpluses, or it doesn't.
Madam Chair,
Okay?
I believe there's a motion on the floor to call the question.
Excuse me.
Yes,
I'd
there's
ask
a
your
motion
opinion.
on the floor to call the
Once there's a
question.
motion on the floor to call the question, it has to be voted on, and at that
Lorraine,
point,
can you
there's no more
take a
discussion.
roll call vote?
My point is that this paper is incorrect. We are providing
Benson.
incorrect information to the
Mrs. Benson, do
town of
you
North
agree or
Kingstown.
not to call the question? I need a yay or nay.
Nay.
John Viscarden.
Nay.
Larry Cerisi.
Yes.
William Mudge.
Nay.
Kimberly Page.
Yes.
Richard Welsh.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-3.
See, we have falsified our report.
question.
$486,000, ladies and
E
gentlemen,
and F1.
is not accounted for on this piece of paper.
Lorraine, roll call vote, please.
John Viscarden.
Shame on you, Chairman.
Larry Cerisi.
Yes.
Melboyd Benson.
Call the question, yes.
No, the motion is to approve E and F1. Yes or no?
No.
William Mudge.
Nope.
Kimberly Page.
Yes.
Richard Welsh.
Yes.
Linda Avanzado.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-3.
Do I have a motion to approve the rest of the consent agenda?
No, we're on still 3, E3, all right, F3.
Oh, F3 is what you exempted. I'm asking if there is a motion to approve the rest of the agenda except for F3.
Why don't you do that before?
Motion to approve.
That's okay, Billy.
Second.
Lorraine, roll call vote.
Larry Cerisi.
Yes.
William Mudge.
No.
Kimberly Page.
Yes.
Richard Welsh.
Yes.
Linda Avanzado.
Yes.
Mel Boyd Benson.
Come back to me because I'm missing a page.
John
Maybe you
Biscardin.
did it
Yes.
before the mail got out.
This is the consent agenda.
F3. Is there a motion to approve F3?
No, I have discussion.
Well, we can still have the motion, and then you can
No.
have the discussion. I'm sorry.
Point of order. I need additional information on this.
Yes, there is an
before we
F3.
vote.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Where do you see that?
It's right here.
I'd like to provide some additional information.
Here. I don't know, I don't have it.
I don't have F3.
It's on the hiring of
It's
Ned
on the-
Draper's replacement,
Here.
Mary King. Yeah. $110,000.
Yes, Dr. Ajay, what would you like to say about the motion on the floor?
Yes, I just want you to know of Mary King. Ms. King is come to us highly recommended. She's gone through our process of, interviewing and all. She has a master's degree in business administration and a CPA, which is pretty rare for a position of this type. She's eminently qualified, and the jobs that she has recently performed for the last year and a half or so, she's been at the East Providence School Department doing similar work over there. Their issues are far more substantial than we'll hopefully ever experience, looking at $7 million in shortfall that she just kind of walked into and had to deal with all of the the issues surrounding that with her town and her school department. She's also been involved in overseeing major bonds that have come from that district. So she certainly understands the issues that school departments go through. She has experience with all of this, and I know that Mr. Draper was a part of us, looking for this person. Mr. Draper, could you talk a little bit about her credentials?
Yes. One of the things that I think was fortunate for North Kingstown is the candidate pool was remarkable in the quality of the candidates. The interviews that were conducted really put forth some excellent candidates, which I must say we were pleasantly surprised. And Mary distinguished herself. Mary distinguished herself in both her credentials and her experience, and the fact that she's currently working in a school district, and also with the plans that North Kingstown potentially has for consolidation. Having a MBA and a CPA is a nice set of tools to bring to the table when you're going through a lot of financial discussions and challenges.
This is a situation, through the interview process, we were very impressed with her confidence, and she would be here tonight. However, she had already planned a vacation, and so she is out of town tonight. Otherwise, I would have her here to say hello. If we could, I'm hoping that you will approve of this tonight. As you know, I had the question given to me today from the town council. We just put together a proposal for consolidation, including finance. We notified all of our candidates of that proposal, and one thing that we put in our proposal that was approved by the school committee is that the school department would retain control over the hiring of this person, even though both entities would have power to, to fire their percentage of the person if they were not happy with the role.
Fire a third of the person.
Well, Mr. Mudge, if I could finish. So she is aware of this. She is aware that there were similar discussions in her own town about this. There were similar discussions all around the state about doing similar kinds of things. So she's aware of these kinds of issues. She's open to it and being a part of the discussion. We have a situation here, and if we could vote for this and the contract together, that would be great. I'm looking for $110,000. That is more than Mr. Draper currently makes. that part of the issues that I'm having in going to that level is that she is currently paid $115,000 in East Providence, and one of the issues I'm worried about is fair market value, as I mentioned, a lot at this table. And so I'm looking for an eminently qualified person to do this role, someone that has great confidence, someone that will steer this ship well, as Mr. Draper has. And in this case, the person is Mary King. And I hope you will support that. I hope you will support her salary of $110,000. In the provisions of her salary, I have put something that we normally don't put in there at the request of one of the school committee members, and that is that within the first year, we have control over terminating that salary, that contract, and she does as well. It's a 2-year contract, but within the first year, either side can cancel. So that gives us a lot of leeway when we're looking at possible consolidation issues. It gives her some options in terms of that as well, considering that it is one of the issues of this department to keep control over the finance piece, particularly in hiring. And this is a person who I have no doubt could fill a consolidated role if it comes to that. So she has my enthusiastic support. I certainly hope that you will support this tonight.
Mr. Welch.
Yes, Madam Chairperson. I'd like to move up the contract approval vote on her contract.
We can take that after we finish the motion on the table, which is to approve her.
I thought we already did that.
No, we haven't.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I would like to make
We have a motion on the floor right now to approve F3.
Is this open for discussion? Or
Yes, I saw your hand up, Mr. Busgarden, and then Mrs. Benson.
I got you.
And then Mr. Mudge.
Thank you.
Dr. Auger, you said that, you mentioned that about the 2-year contract that after the first year, either side can back out.
Yes, within the first year.
Yeah. Is there a salary increase after that first year?
No.
So it's a $110 for the first 2 years?
Yes.
How many applicants did you folks receive for this position?
Mr. Draper, do you know how many applicants in all?
There were 11.
11 applicants. I just wonder if you'd have been as pleased with the quality of the applicants and the amount of applicants if the position was listed for less. And that's something we'll never know because we can't go back and redo that. That's what I wonder, and I'll wonder from.
We didn't list the position for anything in particular.
You didn't list the salary at all? Is
No.
that right?
Not that I'm aware of.
Was there a range?
Yes. Do you recall, Ned, was there a range listed on School Spring? I don't recall there being a range. Often we list these as, salary to be determined.
Open-ended? Is that
Yeah,
what it does?
that kind of thing, yeah.
Mrs. Benson. I'm sorry, Mr. Busgarden, did you have any other questions?
No, thank you.
I have a question here with duties of the director. I see number 3, A and B, as eroding the powers of the superintendent. And I noticed that in all of the contracts, because it says school committee, we are leaving out the point, and if Dr. Auger wishes to give that up, I can tell him it will be back to Horning. Let me finish, please.
I don't think what you're asking is in part of the
Yes.
motion here tonight. You're asking a question on the contract, and that's not what is being voted on.
Okay, will you be so kind as to call on me when we get to
I will.
Well,
Mr.
how
Mudge.
can we vote on the person without discussing the contract?
Kind of makes sense.
How can we vote on the person without discussing the contract?
Because you can vote for somebody as a business administrator, and then you can decide if you're going to give them the contract that is proposed. And you can say, no, we don't want the contract that is proposed, Dr. Auger, come back with a different contract.
You know, the woman sings very well, but I have 2 questions, and I would not like to vote negative until these 2 questions are answered. You have to have the question answered before you vote on a person. Otherwise, we don't need a contract. And if it comes out in the paper that I voted no, would you be a kind journalist and state the reasons why I voted no?
Mr. Mudge.
Thank you. I'm awfully
I'm right.
I'm awfully concerned
Right. You don't.
about the fact that, following up with Ms. Scarden's comment here, is that this school committee never had an opportunity to look at the job description that was advertised. We were never given a copy of what we were advertising for, what the qualifications of the people were, what the range of salary would be. In fact, as I understand it, is this, and this has nothing to do with this young lady or this woman at all. Does she have a certificate to teach?
Doesn't require a certificate to teach. It requires a certificate to be a business director. She does not, but she is overqualified to get it, so she will simply be applying and get it, much like Mr. Draper did when he took the job.
Well, let's make sure we're talking about the same thing. I'm not talking about an administrative certificate, because it takes a few months to get that, and just about anybody can get it if they have the background and education
She has all the credentials. She needs to get the right certification.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, didn't your application require that they have a teaching certificate?
Not that I'm aware of. Business manager certificate.
Didn't say teaching certificate?
Not that I'm aware of.
Why would she need one?
This person does have an MBA and a CPA. I would say that they're more than qualified for the position, and it shouldn't take very long to be able to get a business manager certificate.
Yeah, that's not a question.
In fact, she did the same job in East Providence without it, so,
No, absolutely, that's not a question.
Fine.
That's not my question, okay? So my question is again, who was on the interviewing committee also?
Why are these questions coming up now?
Because it just came up.
Mr.
Okay.
Mudge,
I'm just asking a question.
So many jobs come by, and there are only a couple that you all of a sudden need the full school committee to be on the search team, the full school committee to have several applicants in front of you, several price ranges. This is not the standard operating procedure for any other job. And so, I don't feel like we need to go down this road right now.
Are you telling me that I don't have the responsibility for this town to ensure that the directors of our community,
Point of order.
that we have...
Please, let's get this meeting back under control and have everyone respond only to the chair and not yelling out at one another, or where I'm going to leave this meeting.
Go ahead and leave. I don't care.
Okay,
I had
Mr.
the floor.
Mudge.
I had the floor.
Mr.
I was
Mudge.
interrupted.
Mr. Mudge, your
Okay?
question was who was
Okay?
on the committee.
Who was on the screening committee, and why didn't we have a school committee member on the committee? I brought that up 3 weeks ago when the coach was on there, okay?
Thank you. At the time, I'd like to answer your question.
$110,000.
I'd like to answer your question. I'd like to answer your question.
Okay?
She's going to answer your question.
We did not appoint a school committee person on the committee. The committee was made up of the Human Resources, Dr. Auger, Mr. Draper. I do know that at the time that the final interviews were about to begin, Dr. Auger asked me if I was available, and I was not. But at the time when the interview was there, Mr. Welch happened to be in the office.
Oh,
and
isn't
he was
that
there.
lovely.
So he came into the interview.
Isn't that lovely?
So we did have a school committee member there. I was here at the building.
Was anybody else
Unrelated
asked?
Matters last week, and met Mrs. King, and I believe others. Mr. Busgarden was at the school committee office, or not school, the administration building last week, and he met Mrs. King also.
We might have known,
So,
but
is
he
there any
did he
further
have an
questions
audition?
on the motion?
Mrs.
Avanzato?
Yeah, that's fine. So...
Mr. Reese? Still the wrong hand.
Excuse me, I'm not
Motion
completing yet.
to end debate and call a question, please.
Mr.
Is there a
Cerisi,
second?
may I...
Okay, there is a motion on the floor to call the question.
Point of order.
Mrs.
Point of
Berglund,
order.
will you take a roll call vote?
Point of order.
Call the question.
Point of order, please.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to the amendment.
There is a motion on the floor.
I'm making a motion.
You can't.
You can't make a motion to, motion to call the question.
Richard Welsh.
Yes.
Madam Chair,
Linda Avanzado.
in sense of
There's
fairness,
nothing right now, you are answering
in
whether,
sense of
no.
fairness, I had asked you
We are taking a roll call vote,
I
and
had
that is
asked
what,
you
no.
about something in the contract,
John
and
Bastardo.
you
No.
gave me signals that I was right, Madam Attorney, and to go on
Mrs.
without
Benson, you're
me
out of order.
stating-
There is a roll call vote on the floor. You cannot be talking. Mrs. Berglund is calling for the roll call vote.
Did not
No,
give
you
me
are
an
not.
opportunity to
There is
say
a roll
what I
call
wanted
vote.
to say.
I'm sorry, there was a calling of the question.
Well, what about the
John
question
Bastardo.
that I asked before then? Could you make a decision, Madam Attorney? They
I'm
won't fire
telling you, you're out of order.
Could you reread, I've,
This is just a motion to call the question, that's all it is.
Did you
right
hear
now.
me say that I had a...
yes.
And did you hear her say that you could... come
Motion
back?
to call the question, you're out of order.
Mrs. Benson, do you vote to call the question?
No, because I have a comment
All right.
to make.
That was it.
Mr. Mudge?
No.
Okay,
Passes
roll
by
call
two.
vote on the question. And the question is the approval of Mary King for Director of Administrative Services.
I didn't hear her ask anybody but Mrs. Benson and Mr. Mudge for the roll call
Well,
vote
you
on
talked
the
over it,
question.
Mrs. Benson, so you couldn't hear the motion.
Welch.
Roll call vote.
You didn't hear a vote.
Madam
Yes.
Attorney, why don't you
Linda
be
Avanzado.
I'm
fair?
ruling you out of order, Mrs. Benson.
Why don't you be fair and use your
Larry,
position
You
for the betterment of
need
the
to
committee?
be quiet, and we're having a roll call vote.
Honey, it
Kimberly
wasn't
Page.
anything against the woman. It was for the
Yes.
benefit of the citizens and the
Mrs.
committee.
Benson,
Mrs. Benson. This is to approve F3.
Madam Secretary,
Yes.
please list this in the minutes.
it's
and
a
the
yes or
tax-
no, Mrs. Benson.
and the
That's all
tax
we can
lady
record
and
for the
who's here
vote.
for
It's a
report.
yes or no.
I cannot vote with a yes or no because
Okay.
I have a question.
Okay, Mr. Mudge?
I am not voting because of a lack of information you've been providing
John
to us.
Bastardo?
Yes.
Okay.
Crying out loud, yes.
Okay, motion passes 502.
All right,
What do you
Mr.
mean by
Welch,
02?
you had a request to bring up the contract next. Is there a motion on the contract?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve the contract as presented.
I'd like to amend the motion, please.
Motion
Well,
is...
is there a second?
Second the motion.
Okay.
I'd like
There's
to
a motion and a second.
amend the motion.
How so?
I would like to reduce the cost of the salary from $110,000 to $90,000.
You can't do that.
He can make the amendment, and then we vote on the amendment.
Can't amend the recommendation of the superintendent.
I can
You
do-
vote it up or down.
Stop.
No, no.
It was already approved. It was approved when you just approved F3.
That's correct.
So when you approved F3, you approved Mary King, Director of Administrative Services, at an annual salary of $110. You've already approved the salary in F3.
I think I was trying to
Okay,
say
I
that
see what
before,
you're
but Mrs. Chairman didn't want to talk about that.
So now you're just approving E1.
So, no, I'm going to rule the motion out of order, and the main motion. Mr. Cerisi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will be voting yes on this motion, and I will be leaving after we vote on this agenda item. I have many questions on this agenda item and agenda items that we've already approved. Sadly, with this committee, I can't even ask the questions. I can't even ask the questions, let alone get an answer to a question. With this circus, I'm embarrassed to sit at this table, truly embarrassed. It's humiliating. It's disgraceful.
Welcome
I
to the
can't
club.
even ask a question, a simple question, because of this nonsense.
You're talking about, you're putting more point of orders than anybody.
I will be
has the
voting,
floor.
I will be voting yes on this agenda item. I will be leaving after this meeting, and I don't know if I'll ever be returning, to be honest with you. This is a total disgrace.
Yeah.
I'm firmly convinced that the only good superintendent we'll ever hire, and the only good business director that we'll ever hire, is Bill. So I think we should appoint Bill as the superintendent and the business director.
I can sure do a pretty
All
good
right,
job
thank you,
there.
Mr. Cerisi.
Other than that, we're never going to get anything done. because everybody else is wrong and stealing and corrupt and everything else under the sun.
Have you ever, Mr.
I'm
Excuse
going
me,
to-
that's
I'm
a personal
going
attack.
to-
Have you ever
I'm-
found any?
All right, this,
Mr. Sari-
we have now gone beyond where we should be going. We have a motion on the floor and a second. Do I have anyone who wants to call the question?
I do. Motion to call a question, please.
All right, let's have a roll call vote to call the question.
Richard Welsh.
Yes.
Linda Avanzado. Mel Boyd Benson. To call the question.
Yes, with no questions answered before.
Don Buscarden.
Yes.
Larry Cerisi.
Yes.
William Mudge.
No.
Kimberly Page.
Yes.
Okay, and this is to approve item E1. Linda Avanzado.
Yes.
Mel Boyd Benson.
Yes,
Don Buscarden.
Yes.
Larry Cerisi.
Yes.
William Mudge.
We have a $1 million deficit.
Is it yes or no, Mr. Mudge?
Excuse me. The answer is no.
Kimberly, no, okay. Kimberly Page.
Yes.
Richard Welsh.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-1.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Welch.
make a motion to adjourn?
Second. Third.
Mr. O.J., we're okay with
Time out.
that?
How about correspondence?
We are okay.
All right, so a
Correspondence?
motion to adjourn. All those in favor,
Aye.
saying aye.
Correspondence?
Okay, meeting is adjourned.
That's 2 weeks in a row, madam.